Hey, what is going on, you guys? It is Mr. No Sleep here from Old School RuneScape, and welcome to a brand new loot video for you all today. So today I bring you guys a pretty strange one. This is going to be loot from 3,000 snails. And the gear for this video was pretty old-fashioned. Snails are really low HP, and most people can 1 or 2 hit them, so I just went with a very basic setup, but a nostalgic one, full black D-hide with a magic short bow, and some rune arrows with a Robin Hood hat and ranger boots. And because snails are located in Montana, the only items that I was bringing for this video was direct teleport runes to Caherol, and this would be my way of banking. So this would be right outside of the Montana swamp, and I would use Canifis Bank to bank all of the snails and all the shells that I did get from this video. You can also use the Caherol teleport tabs, but those are 9.5k each, and the runes are like 10% of that, so much smarter to just use the runes. And I'm sure you're wondering, Mr. No Sleep, why would you ever want to kill snails? You know, what are these things good for other than being a nuisance when you're trying to do a quest in the swamp or trying to train your hunter level? I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do in the swamp of Montana. It's a very, very big swamp. There's multiple locations where you can find multiple different snails at, and rather than just ignoring them like most people do, I wanted to take the time and actually kill a decent amount of them, see if we can make any money from them, and, you know, maybe this can be a lower level money making method, or maybe this is going to be a complete waste of time, but we will find that out at the very end. So with all that being said, let's get into the history of snails on RuneScape. I know all of you have wanted to know all about this since the day that you started playing. Well, maybe not that much, but anyway, there's 5 different snails in this game. First, we have the Meyer Blamish snail. This happens to be the lowest level. This is level 9. All of the snails were released into the game on the same day, October 14th, 2004, and each of them can be either rounded or pointed. And from every snail you can expect 2 things, one being the shell and the other being the meat. Killing the Blamish snails didn't result in much profit because their shell isn't used for anything, although the meat, being thin, is at a current price of just shy of 500 GP. So that's not too bad for such a low level monster. And the next snail we have is the lighter yellow snail, also known as the Ochre Blamish snail. Definitely double check that one. This one is a combat level of 10 and also drops thin snail meat. And just like the Meyer Blamish snail, the shell for this one is useless. It's not really used for much at all. And our third snail of the video would be the Blood Blamish snail. Now this snail is twice the level of the previous ones at level 20. And it can be assumed, since this snail is a bigger level, that the meat on this one is a little more thick, which is why it's labeled the fat snail. Now, fat snails are currently worth 1,000 GP each, which is double the price of the thin snail. And you may have also seen people in game through the years with a helmet called the Blood and Tar Snelm. Now, this is a helmet that you can wield, and it will reduce the damage taken from the snails. It's black with a nice red trim on top. It's cool fashionscape, you know, if you're into snail helmets, but certainly not the best stats. It's -3 mage bonus, it's -1 range bonus, although the defense on it is +7 for range and +7 for melee, so it's good for snails. And if you are 15 crafting and you have a chisel, then you can use this on the round Blamish red shell, and this will create this little snail helmet. And moving on to our 4th snail, this would be the Bark Blamish snail. This one is the top dog as it goes for the price. The lean snail meat that it drops every kill is at a current price of 1,200 each, according to the in-game chat. Now, all these prices are, of course, estimates, as we really don't know how much each shell and meat will sell for until the very end. However, the shell for the Bark Blamish, this one is bright orange. It's very hard to miss. It's also the only snail without a pointed counterpart, so no sharp orange shells will ever be found in the game. These specific types of snails actually spit acid. It doesn't poison you, but yeah, they do spit. And finally, we have our last snail, the Bruise Blamish snail. This one is combat 20, drops a fat snail. The orange snail is the only one that drops the lean one, and the blue and the black drop the fat one, and the others drop the thin one. It's easy to remember after you spend 4 days here. And a fun fact about this snail, the Bruise Blamish one, is that the snelm that you can create from the pointed shell is actually used for a medium clue scroll step. I'm sure a lot of you actually knew that. That makes this shell the most valuable out of all of them because it does actually have a use. A lot of these snelms literally have no use at all in RuneScape. I mean, other than for low-level fashionscape or low-level pay-to-play PKing. I mean, I guess you could use it as a defensive helmet if you're lower defense, but, you know, you really don't see people using it in the wild. Now, in regards to snail meat, looking at the wiki, in late February of 2002, Blamish Snail Slime was introduced as a quest item in Hero's Quest. Now, this helped create the oily fishing rod that is used to catch lava eels, and I would assume that this means that snails were introduced on this same day. However, the wiki shows that snails were released into the game 2 years later, so I don't know the details on that, but I found that was worth mentioning. It's also worth mentioning that cooking a thin snail is actually an easy task for the Mortania Diary, so a lot of you may have done this in the past, you just don't remember it. Now, as it goes for killing the snails, I was averaging about 200 kills an hour with the magic short bow, and at one point I decided to try using a cannon here. You know, focus on picking up all the snails rather than manually killing them all. This resulted in 420 kills an hour, but unfortunately RuneLite wasn't tracking everything because I wasn't in range of the snails a lot of the time. Overall though, I didn't really mind either of the methods. I did 1500 kills with the magic short bow and 1500 kills were all cannoned. Obviously, I would never recommend you bring a cannon here as that would definitely ruin any potential profit, but I was just after the overall price of the loot. Personal gain wasn't really a priority from this one. Getting damaged by these snails can be a little annoying even if you are maxed, but food was never needed. If you do bring food, you have a chance at getting stolen anyway by all the ghast that surround this area. It'll just be stolen and replaced with rotten food. The ghasts are honestly more annoying than anything else in this swamp, and if you don't mind the snails, the ghosts, then maybe the swamp decay just might be your tipping point from coming here, because you will occasionally be dealt damage by the swamp since it decays you over time. If you do bring a silver sickle, blessed, or a rod of Avandis, you will be fine. If you also complete the quest making friends with my arm and you have 50 construction, you will be allowed to build the fire of dehumification, which will nullify the swamp decay, and this will prevent your food from being stolen and, you know, turned into rotten. This swamp is actually so deadly that as soon as you exit it, the guy at the gate is even surprised that you made it. The actual name of Mort Mire Swamp may be derived from the French word for death, mort, and mire, an uncommon French word for leech. But an English alteration could be translated to death swamp. Either way, this place is definitely no fun. You know, get in, do what you gotta do, and get out as soon as you can. And as seen in the beginning of the video, you don't have to walk through the gates to reach this location. You can use the fairy ring code BKR, and you will be smack in the center of all these snails. It's perfect for cannoning and perfect for an easy way in. This is a popular fairy ring code for those who spawn Mortmire fungus. That fungus is crucial for super energy potions. I mean, without them, we'd all be moving very, very slow. Slow, just like the snails. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Loot from 3,000 snails has been completed. Like I said, this took 4 days, really just playing on and off. I didn't really know life this one. Wasn't really motivated to, as you can imagine. But overall, after collecting so many different shells, I really just kind of decided towards the end that let me just get 1,000 lean, 1,000 fat, and 1,000 thin snails a piece, and not prioritize the shells as much. So with that being said, the overall loot from 3,000 snails, according to the Grand Exchange price, is 3.2 mil, and that is rounded up. Now that seems like a lot for such a low-level monster, but the real question is any of this stuff going to sell? Whether it's the shell or whether it's the meat, I'm really not too sure. So now we're going to find out. Going to go to the Grand Exchange, putting the Blamish red shells in for 90 each, and it looks like we just got 100 each a piece for that, so that's not too bad. And as it goes for the Blamish blue shells, those sold way overpriced. I was expecting 35k, but we got over 80k. And as it goes for the sharper version of the Blamish blue as well as the Blamish red, as it goes for those, the Blamish red shells really did sell pretty nicely, but the blue ones were selling for just about 1k each, which is half of what they were expected to sell at. Here we have the Blamish ochre shell. God, I hate that word. It's like 1 GP. As it goes for the sharp version, yeah, 1 GP for that too. I don't even know why people are buying this for 1 GP, but hey, I guess someone's got to make a profit. The Blamish Mire shell, same scenario, 1 GP GP a piece for the large and the sharp one, so not even worth killing. As it goes for the orange one, same story with that. Just a little bit more than 1 GP each this time. But anyway, now it's time to sell the snails. So the thin snails sold for 375 a piece. And now we have the fat snail. This one we'll put in for 500 GP each, but it looks like they all instantly sold for 1.2k a piece. And now we have the lean snail, which according to the Grand Exchange price, this is the most expensive one of them all, but go figure, it's actually the opposite. This one is the cheapest snail of them all, so don't let the prices fool ya. Clearly, the fat snail is the way to go. And the greatest thing about that is the most expensive snelms are connected to the fat snail. Whether it's the blue one or the black one, that is where you're going to be making the most profit. So hypothetically, if you can get 200 kills an hour and you only kill the fat snails, then I think it's safe to say that you can make anywhere from 300 to 500k an hour, which is not too bad at such a low combat of a monster to kill. Overall for me, since I killed a little bit of everything, I made 2 mil, so no worries there. It was a good experience. I learned a lot of new things about snails today. And yeah, I don't think this will ever change unless they buff the other snails drop tables, or maybe just give them another use to the game in general. So we'll see if that ever happens. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, Mr. No Sleep, out.